The Atlantic roars against the jagged cliffs of Ireland's west coast. The sky is the colour of steel, clouds hanging low and heavy. Salt spray stings the air, and on the deck of a creaking galley, a woman stands at the helm, her cloak snapping in the wind, her eyes fixed on the horizon. She is not a queen by coronation, nor by decree of any parliament. She wears no crown but the tangled ropes of her rigging and the loyalty of hardened sailors. She is Grace O'Malley, chieftain of the O'Malley clan, sea captain, trader, raider, diplomat, and to the English, a pirate of the most dangerous sort. Her story begins in the rugged heart of County Mayo, around the year 1530. Ireland is not yet a nation in the sense we know today. It is a patchwork of Gaelic lordships and Anglo-Norman territories, each ruled by its own chieftains and families, locked in an ever-shifting dance of alliance, rivalry, and survival. Grace's father, Uí Mháille, is Lord of Uí Mháille, a territory encompassing the islands and bays of Clew Bay. The O'Malleys are known for their mastery of the sea. Their motto, Terra Marique Potens, powerful by land and sea, is not mere ornament. They control trade routes stretching to Scotland, Spain, and even further. Their galleys carry fish, hides, wine, salt, and occasionally less lawful cargo. Grace grows up in this world of saltwater politics. The Atlantic is not a boundary, it is a highway, and the O'Malleys know every current, every tide, every sheltered cove. There is a story, half legend, half history, that as a child, Grace once begged to join her father on a voyage. He refused, saying her long hair would get caught in the rigging. Without hesitation, she took a knife and cut it off. Whether or not the moment truly happened, the tale endures because it captures something essential about her. Grace O'Malley would not be told no. By her teenage years, she is sailing regularly, learning the work of the crew, the language of trade, and the subtler arts of negotiation. The west coast of Ireland is not a safe place to be naive. Pirates roam the waters, English officials grow increasingly aggressive, and rival clans eye each other's harbours. In her late teens, Grace marries Donal O'Coggy O'Flaherty, Donal of the Battles, a man from another path. Statues of her stand in Mayo. Songs are sung in her name. Schoolchildren learn of her voyages. She endures because she represents something Ireland has never let go of, the refusal to be ruled without consent. And perhaps, when the Atlantic wind hits the right pitch and the waves crash just so, you might still imagine her galley cutting through the spray, her voice carrying over the storm, commanding her crew, unafraid of the empire that hunted her. She fortifies Clare Island Castle, turning it into both a home and a naval stronghold. From here, her ships patrol the western coast, collecting tolls from merchant vessels passing through. To her, this is a matter of Gaelic right, safe passage in exchange for tribute. To the English, it is piracy. The truth is likely somewhere in between. Grace walks a line between commerce and raiding, sometimes demanding tolls, sometimes seizing goods outright. Her fleet becomes a force to be reckoned with. By the 1580s, Ireland is under increasing pressure from the Tudor crown. The English governor of Connacht, Sir Richard Bingham, views Grace as a threat, not just because she disrupts trade, but because she symbolises Gaelic independence. When Bingham imposes taxes on her cargo, Grace retaliates in spectacular fashion. She blockades Galway Bay, choking off English shipping and starving their garrisons of supplies. For weeks, the Crown's forces are at her mercy. Eventually, they yield. It is one of her boldest and most dangerous moves. But such defiance cannot go unanswered. Bingham calls her a nurse to all rebellions in the province of Connacht. The label is not entirely wrong. Grace has no patience for English encroachment. She trades with Spain, shelters rebels, and refuses to bend to Tudor law. In 1593, the fight turns personal. Two of Grace's sons, Tibbot and Murrough, along with her half-brother Donal, are captured by English forces. For many, this would mark the end. But Grace makes a choice that will define her legacy. She sails to London to meet Queen Elizabeth I face to face. It is an extraordinary journey. The two women could not be more different. Elizabeth, the Protestant ruler of an expanding empire. Grace, the Catholic chieftain of a fiercely independent people. Yet both are rulers in their own right, navigating male-dominated worlds with wit and resolve. When they meet, Grace refuses to bow. Gaelic custom dictates that one sovereign does not bow to another. She carries a dagger under her gown, which Elizabeth's guards discover. She calmly explains it is for her own protection. Elizabeth, perhaps amused, allows it. The two speak in Latin, a language they share. Grace petitions for the release of her family and the restoration of her lands. Elizabeth agrees, at least on paper. Some promises are kept, others dissolve in the shifting winds of politics. But Grace returns to Ireland with her sons, her position strengthened, her reputation cemented. She lives another decade, continuing to defend her people and her autonomy until her death around 1603, the same year Elizabeth dies. The parallel is striking. Two queens, so different, yet bound by a mutual recognition of power. In the centuries since, Grace O'Malley has become a figure of both history and myth. The meeting with Elizabeth may have ended in diplomacy, but it did not mean peace. Back in Ireland, Grace found herself navigating an even more volatile landscape. The 1590s were a decade of upheaval. Across the country, the 9 Years' War raged, a desperate Gaelic resistance against the English crown, led by Hugh O'Neill and Red Hugh O'Donnell. While Grace was not formally aligned with the Ulster chiefs, her defiance of Bingham and her independent control of the Western Seas made her a constant thorn in the English side. She returned to Clare Island and resumed her maritime patrols. The west coast of Ireland, with its rocky inlets and countless islands, was the perfect terrain for a seafarer who knew every headland and current. Merchant ships bound for Galway or Limerick often found themselves intercepted, politely or otherwise, by O'Malley's men. English records from the time are full of frustrated complaints. Officials grumbled that the woman Granny O'Malley was maintained by her galleys, and the strength of the sea refusing to submit to lawful authority. Gaelic sources, in contrast, record her as a protector, someone who ensured her people could trade and fish without interference. One English observer noted with grudging respect that she had no less than 3 galleys and 200 fighting men at her command. This was in an age when most Gaelic chieftains, male or female, struggled to maintain even a small standing force. Her network extended beyond Ireland. She traded with Spain, bringing in wine, salt and luxury goods, and she likely carried letters or messages for Irish exiles and rebels on the continent. Such activities skirted the line between commerce and treason, but Grace had little interest in the Crown's definitions. In her later years, Grace's life slowed only slightly. She still commanded voyages, still collected tolls, and still held court at Clare Island. Visitors described her as shrewd, sharp-tongued, and utterly unafraid of speaking her mind. By 1601, the tide of Irish resistance had turned. The defeat at the Battle of Kinsale marked the beginning of the end for Gaelic independence. The old clan system, already weakened, was collapsing under English administration. Many chieftains went into exile in what would later be called the Flight of the Earls. Grace did not leave. She lived out her final years in her own territory, passing away around 1603. No surviving record names her exact burial place, though local tradition claims she rests at Clare Island Abbey, under a carved stone that once bore the O'Malley crest. It is fitting, perhaps, that her grave is uncertain. For a woman who spent her life evading capture, slipping through the fingers of empires, it seems right that she should remain elusive in death. And yet, in another way, she has never been more visible. Her image appears on Irish stamps and banknotes. Statues in Westport and beyond honour her memory. She is the subject of plays, songs and novels. Schoolchildren learn her name alongside the great figures of Irish history. Grace O'Malley's story matters because it breaks the mould. In an age when women were expected to remain in the domestic sphere, she commanded ships, led men into battle, negotiated with monarchs, and carved out a place for herself in the dangerous politics of the Atlantic world. To the English, she was a pirate, a nuisance to be eradicated. To her own people, she was a leader who understood that sovereignty was not just about land, but about the freedom to move, to trade, and to act without permission from a foreign power. Perhaps that is why her legend endures. Ireland has known many rebels, but few have ruled the waves, and fewer still have looked an empire in the eye and not blinked. So when you stand on the cliffs of Mayo and look out to the restless Atlantic, imagine the dark shape of a galley cresting the waves, sails snapping in the wind. Picture a woman at the helm, her hair whipped back by the salt air, scanning the horizon for opportunity or threat. That is Grace O'Malley, the pirate queen, the woman who defied an empire and won her place in history.